Guys, we're sitting in the same room with Yvette. I don't know. Like, are we processing this? Thank you so
sitting
much.
where Nelson Mandela sat.
I know. We are in the same room where Nelson Mandela sat. So much power.
So much.
So today I want to really talk about you, your personal journey, your career path, your spiritual journey, just all of it.
How much time we have? 5
I
hours?
don't know. So I know you once said, because I've stalked you extensively,
Oh my God.
you once said that your journey has always been preordained. So I want to know, when did you realize that your life has been preordained, and how did you then go about becoming the woman that you are today?
Wow. Well, all praises to the grandparents that my mom entrusted me and my brothers and sisters to. I grew up in a really small island, Grenada. It's a really southern island. It's kind of across the Caribbean Sea from Venezuela and Trinidad. And no one heard of us until Reagan sent in some troops. And all of a sudden I was no longer from Jamaica. And we ended up with our grandparents as our primary caretakers. My mom was the oldest of 7 children and flawed in every way possible with mental illness. And my grandfather really loved his oldest child, and he thought how he could really show her his love was to say, I will take care of you, and I will take care of everything you brought into this house. And that was me and my brothers and sisters. And I always like to say that my very old-fashioned Caribbean grandfather was the first feminist I've met.
Talk about that. How does that look on a black male?
Well, first of all, let's just tell you, I should have been intimidated because he was about 6'5" and probably 300 pounds. But my grandmother was about 79 pounds and about 4 feet. So there was real balance in that house. But we had a little shop. And when you're about 8 years old, man, you think you're in a big shop, right? So I thought I was in a major supermarket. And later I found out that supermarket had aisles and we just had a counter. But my grandfather, I think because I couldn't shut up, I think it's because I was so talkative and so curious, he found a way to channel that. He was like, she'll be good to represent us as a family, as a business. And at 8 years old, he lifted me up, put me sit down on the counter and said, this shop is ours. We own this. This house, we own this. The land around the house, we own this. And mango on the tree, you own that. You leave it on the tree, don't put it in the refrigerator. You know, get it, climb. So I was climbing trees with my brothers because my grandfather thought I could. But when he sat me on the counter, he said, I'm going to give you this brown paper bag. And I need you to take it on the bus. I was really tiny. We had wooden buses. And they had to lift me up and put me on the bus. And I was sitting on the bus with the brown paper bag. The brown paper bag was opened at the shop on the bay. There's a man, an Indian merchant named Mr. Bola. He was getting all of the wholesale goods from Trinidad for our small island. And I delivered the bag and he threw it on the counter. Thousands of EC dollars my grandfather trusted me with at 8 years old to do the shopping for our store. Immediately I felt empowered. I was buying flour, sugar, saltfish, soap, kerosene for my village. You know, the older people were coming and where's the little girl? Where's the little girl? It just felt really good. You know, when I said, Papa, I want this, I want to do that. Buy me this book. He's like, we're going to get you this book. I want to read in church. We're going to go talk to the priest. You're going to read in church. He never said no. He never said no. And he never said, this is for your brothers to learn. You know, he always said, you could do it. You could do. He didn't know what a journalist was when I said around 10 I wanted to be a journalist. He said, okay, what's a journalist? Yeah, he was. I give Papa praises for everything, for loving us so deeply. You know, being an older man and having to start all over with us. You know, I mean, my brothers and sisters were tough, and you know, his daughter not quite being there at all times. You know, there but not there. Couldn't find her sometimes. Literally couldn't find her because she would wander off. And then finally, when they sort of got it together and sent her to the U.S. To get help. You know, we were left really now physically left with them, and I didn't reunite with my mom until I was 14. I was 14, and I think she left when I was about maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And that's a whole sort of cultural thing in the Caribbean that people don't talk about, the separation. And then I came to America, and I found not a mother, but a grown child that I needed to take care of. And I think that shaped me because I immediately had to go to school, decide what I wanted to do, take care of my mother. But it all came from my papa.
So you grew up in a very entrepreneurial family.
Oh,
you
yeah.
were forced, well, not forced, but...
Oh, forced.
Oh, forced? Okay.
I'll tell you something Papa used to say. You want to eat in this house? You have to pick up the nutmegs off the tree.
Wow.
Like seriously, it literally was. He was teaching us every day that here's the action. That's the results.
Yeah.
If you pick the nutmeg from the tree, if you help us cut the bananas off, then you can come to the processing plant, and we can show you how we box up the bananas, and we can show you those Americans and those British people eating the bananas from Grenada. And then we can show you how the nutmeg gets into your perfume and into your cakes and all of this stuff. It came from Papa's land. So every time I saw a movie and somebody was eating a banana, I was like, that might have come from Papa's land. So, yeah.
Well, what did you take from 8-year-old entrepreneur that you've now brought into your current career as a super house?
Okay, so it wasn't that easy because it took me a minute to become confident. And I always tell the story of 8-year-old Yvette Noel. I'm stuck there emotionally sometimes. I'm very sensitive because with that power he gave me, I wasn't prepared for it mentally, right? So I had to kind of grow into that. And then there was such a responsibility of my mother on me. It took me a while to actually come into my own and be emotionally grown and be able to walk into a room and sit on a sofa at the Nelson Mandela Foundation and actually talk to people. It takes a process. People expect everything to happen overnight. It's not how it happens. I mean, I was a senior vice president at Columbia Records, Sony Music for 17 years. And I would still be that girl that if you said poop to, I would run into the bathroom and cry. And then the next second I was on the phone with 5 Oprah Winfrey show producers demanding what we're going to do, and we're going to do that. Oh yeah, the set is going to do like that. But you know, there's something about the way you're raised that sometimes you just can't, you don't change it overnight.
Yeah.
You don't change it overnight. But I have to tell you that the sensitive part, the confident part, the passionate part is all me. And you can't separate those. People sometimes are different things, different places. This is who I am, 24/7. I dance when there's no music. I smile constantly. You better hug your children because I'm coming in for the hug. It's just who I am. And I don't speak another language. Grenada was colonized by the French and then the British. And so by the time I came around, the older people were so in love with the English that they stopped speaking French. So I remember my grandparents speaking French but cutting it off when we came. So I had to sort of master this one because that's kind of what I knew. But I felt like when you know something, you have to know it really well, do it well, teach it well. And it all stems from growing up in that house where people said you could take what you have and make it something greater. You know, my grandmother used to say, be happy with what you have. And I used to say, that is not aspirational. That's not aspirational. What do you mean? But it meant take care of what you have.
Yeah.
It's going to grow if you take care of it. Plant the seed, water it, it'll grow. She spoke in such sort of normal terms. She had no education whatsoever. And everything I know came from my mama and my papa.
So she had wisdom.
She had wisdom.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to read. I wrote all her letters for her. I read books to her, read the Bible to her. She did not know how to read.
Wow. So having worked at Columbia Records and built the brand of Beyonce and Prince and Mariah Carey, do you feel successful?
Oh, there's so much more to do. There's so much more to do. I don't know. I think you'd be cocky if you sit here and say I'm so successful.
Well, okay, so what does success look like for you?
The phase of my career that I'm in now, where I own my own company and able to still have a seat at the table at Parkwood Entertainment, Beyonce's company, I guess maybe I'm on my way. I've had to learn. There was a learning curve, you know. When you work for a big company, you have a good salary, and you just kind of put the card in that ATM. The money just comes every 2 weeks. It's so easy. And I want that shoe. I want that. I wanted that cake. I want to take that vacation. And then you open up your little business, and you forget for 3 months to do your invoices. There's nothing in that ATM.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to learn how to sort of make it. So I don't know that I'm successful yet. I'll be successful when I could sleep and make money. Right now, I feel when I work.
When you find out the secret to that, let us know.
I'm telling all of you.
So at 14, you moved to Brooklyn from
Yes,
Ghana.
Brooklyn in the winter.
Oh, can you talk about that transition from Caribbean from the islands to New York and how that affected you and your transformation?
Can you imagine oh my goodness. Can you imagine a bucket full of water?
Yeah.
Okay, that was me. I cried from Grenada to JFK.
Why?
Cried and cried and cried. I don't want to offend the men in here, and if you love women, you shouldn't be offended, but the day that I left Grenada, December 10th, 1975, with my 17-year-old brother, Trevor, it was the day I became a woman. So I'm sitting at the airport in Trinidad, and now that's the one thing Papa and Mama didn't tell me about. My friend Doc is here. She's from the Caribbean. She understands that. I didn't know what was happening to me. My brother, I ran to the bathroom and I said to my brother, I think I cut myself. And he said, oh.
That's not a cut.
That's not a cut. That's not a cut. So I'm leaving my beautiful island. I'm leaving, this is not hindsight. I knew I was on a beautiful island. You know, sometimes you have to leave and say, oh, wow, that was nice. I knew I was living in paradise. So I didn't want to leave. Papa and Mama are crying. It's terrible. We're leaving like what we call full day morning. So it's like before the sun. And it's dark and I'm leaving my grandparents. And I'm wearing my little white dress that the neighbor made for me with my little white slippers. And it's like December. And I'm going to Brooklyn. And it was just a bundle of nerves. We get to Trinidad for our second flight, and this happens to me, and I'm sitting on a plane for 4 hours, 4.5, 5 hours, just like not knowing what is happening to me and my brother. It's like he is a little too macho to really like hold my hand, so that he's trying to hold my hand, you know, just to be like, you're gonna be okay. And then he said, we didn't say flight attendants, we said stewardesses. And when you see the first female stewardess, just ask her for something. And that's what I did, and she sat with me. And I tell you that story because it was a physical change for me and an emotional change for me. And then the weather was horrible, and Mommy was not home. She was working with some family that she was trying to help with their kid because she was in a good space in Long Island, and then I had to wait for Mommy to come because I didn't want to tell Daddy. And then my older sister was asking me all kinds of crazy questions. She was like, you know you can get pregnant now, right? And I was like, How did I get pregnant? At least I knew I couldn't get pregnant without having a boyfriend. I was 14. Like, yes, I was 14. I'm 57. Okay, I told my age. But I just like, it was just all crazy. It was all crazy. I went to school. I was teased. My accent, you see me go in and out of it, so it was definitely much stronger Grenadian, and I got really teased, and I was really smart, and I put my hand up for everything, and I realized that when back then in America, students were almost trying not to be smart, and there comes this little show-off Grenadian girl, we don't like her, so I was bullied for the next 4 years. But yeah, my father was funny. He's like, "What is bullying? Please, just cut your eyes at them and keep on going. You're smart." Yeah. So it was tough for me. Really, really tough for me.
Well, then, so how did you then know, or when did you know that you wanted to be in entertainment, in music?
Oh, never. Absolutely never. Absolutely never. I never wanted to be in music. Never wanted to be a publicist. I thought publicists were crazy.
They are.
Yes, they get really emotional during events. They kind of forget that you're on the list. They don't know how to tell you properly to hold on. They're like, "Well, you're not on the list." I mean, I'm never going to make people feel that way. I don't want to do that. And I met some really great people as a journalist, and I was like, "Oh, maybe that's not too bad." But no, never, ever. I owned no music. I mean, we weren't allowed to own music. We kind of sang Catholic hymns, and we got really crazy during Carnival. That's when you could be nasty and crazy. So I listened to like the Mighty Sparrow and people like that from Trinidad. Actually, he's Grenadian, but he grew up in Trinidad. And of course, Jamaica opened us to Bob Marley and Jimmy Cliff and things like that. But and then I was listening to the radio, and an old English program came on, and I heard some guy, and his name was Ziggy Stardust, and I came to America years later, and it turned out that man was David Bowie, and I kind of fell in love with him. And I had my little secret sort of hiding listening to David Bowie, because I couldn't listen to David, guy with a thing on his eye, and but I realized that Grenada has sort of, although we were so traditional, it still gave me a chance to sort of explore, and sort of learn and like different things, and yeah. But I was a strange girl. I mean, people didn't like me at all in high school.
Well, how did you learn to love yourself among people who don't like you at all?
It was my nose.
Really?
Yeah.
What's wrong with your nose?
I'm going to tell you the story about the nose. So, I grew up in a house, I guess we call it a nuclear family, I think. Grandparents, aunts, everybody, right? The whole sort of generation. And the colonization of the Caribbean was very much in my house. And like most black families, we came and come in many, many colors. And colonization made older Caribbean people so prejudiced amongst themselves, they don't even understand how prejudiced they are.
Wow.
So they say things to their very dark grandchildren and nieces that stay with you forever. And so I have many aunts, so hopefully this one will not know it's her.
Oh, she'll know.
She'll know. I've long since forgiven her. But she is very beautiful, very tall, very light, with a head full of hair. I curse her because now I have to have hair because of her. I have to buy it, I have to, because of her. And she told me that if I was waiting to be something based on my looks, it's never gonna happen. So please continue going to school because you're gonna have to rely on being smart. Well, girl, I took that and ran with it.
I love it.
Oh, I'm gonna show off how smart I am. But then I went on the subway in New York City, and it was the first time I saw many, many noses, many different noses. Caribbean people have pretty much the same nose. It's a little button nose.
Yeah.
So I saw all these noses and they all looked the same. So I was like, what you talking about? I'm cute. Everybody has the same nose. But then I saw a Jewish nose. I saw an Arabic nose. I saw a Chinese nose. And then I was like, kind of like this nose. And the minute I said that, everything else followed. Like, I'm good. I'm good the way I am. That's just it. Simple thing, that's my nose.
So
we have the same nose, by the way. I told you, look like my children.
when you said button nose, I was already so honored. I was like, wow, I'm gassed.
We can pretend that we're Maoris and sort of
Can we
rub our
be
noses
related?
together.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. I want to talk about race a little bit.
Yes.
Because coming from the islands and then into New York, which tends to be a lot more white than people think, especially in the arts.
Dissected by neighborhoods too.
Yeah. Was there an adjustment for you coming from a predominantly black space and now having to be a player in a very white space and as a woman? Or is it just not even something that you thought about? Because I feel like when you grow up in a predominantly black space, you're not really confronted with your race in the same way.
I didn't know what black was.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't. No one. When I was growing up, you have to remember I left Grenada in '79. Black meant a color. It was a color. It was a color.
No context.
There was no context other than, I don't even know if it was in the crayons, but it was, black was like, they didn't even call it a color, they said black was a shade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even,
it was the norm.
Yeah, everybody looked like me, and we treated the tourists so well. My grandfather had another job. Like on Thursdays, he was like a tour guide. So every kind of people came to my house. I didn't know I was black.
Wow.
I didn't know I knew I wasn't white, but I knew because we didn't have that title on ourselves, right? I can't remember what we called ourselves. I think we called ourselves Creoles in the Caribbean at some point, which is we're so not. But it definitely wasn't black. But I'll tell you, when I knew I was black, oh my God. The day after I landed, I told my father I was bored already.
Yeah.
I was bored. I said, I gotta find something to do, because we came in December, so it wouldn't put us in school until after the holidays. And he called up my Uncle Francis and said, she's bored, you got a young kid, maybe she can babysit. And Uncle Francis told me how to get from our house to his. And in my little spring coat that wasn't right for the winter, and Daddy finally got me some boots, I was walking just blocks away. Caribbean people in Brooklyn, they all buy the same neighborhood, all the houses in the same place. And I was walking to his house, and the little kid was in a yard playing with like snow toys, like sleds, right? And the kid saw me and ran up the stairs, and, Mommy, there's a nigger woman. And I said, I've heard Negro before, but I've never heard nigger. Okay, that's all right. Let me tell you something. No one can make you feel anything unless you put that feeling into it. So because I didn't know what it is, I was just like, what a rude kid. But then when I entered my uncle's house, it stayed with me, and I said, Uncle Francis, what's a nigger? He said, who called you that? I said, the little kid up the block. Well, he was like Black Panther, He was like, let's go get them. And I was like, oh. And then he sat me down and gave me African American History 101 right there on my first day of trying to babysit my little cousin.
Wow.
And he was like, you better claim your blackness, girl, because they're going to let you know.
Wow.
That was my rude awakening. Yep.
And throughout your career, do you ever feel like your womanhood or your race or any other type of social construct limits you? Or do you feel like you've transcended that?
Well, we don't transcend in America. It's not time yet for that.
Yeah.
Not with Trump in the White House. I mean, we want to say we transcend, and every day we're making progress on it, but they remind us every day in America how black is in a negative way. And my thing is that my black is so positive, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm also very careful to tell people, you know, I'm a black woman. There are so many layers to who we are. I'm a black Caribbean woman. If you take away my culture, like you take away a really, really big part of me, this is what you see, and I claim it wholeheartedly. But you gotta cut a little bit through the surface to see all the other things that make me, you know. And I always tell my friends and my colleagues, you don't know me until you walk in the mud that I climbed up those coconut trees on. You don't know what I'm made of. You just don't know. Everybody talks about I work with Beyonce, but I worked with some people you never heard of too. They were like, they don't have any careers. I had a lot of failures, lots and lots of failures. Everybody thinks Beyonce started out being Beyonce. Yes, she did. That's her name. But I'm saying a career takes a minute for it to become, right? Well, so does a regular life.
Yeah.
It takes a minute.
Well, do you believe that those were failures? Or do you just see them as part of?
No, of course they were failures, but failures are good.
Okay.
Failures are good. If you didn't learn anything from failure, then that's a real failure.
Okay.
But a failure is a success because it is one step you took back, and now you've learned how to take 3 steps forward. While you're in that backward position, you're already doing this. That's what it is.
So, I mean, you spent all this time building up these iconic names. And when you met them, so Destiny's Child, for example, they weren't Destiny's Child. So what does it take?
Well, they were fabulous.
Of course, of course. But what does it take to become an icon? Like, what is there a secret ingredient?
I don't think so. Well, yes. Hard work.
Yeah.
Hard work. And no man is an island, so I think that you have to create a great team, a great tribe of people. And before I came into the picture with Destiny's Child, there were 2 really important people.
Yeah.
Matthew Knowles, Tina Knowles-Lawson. I say thank you to them every day for trusting me with their children, because Beyonce was their blood child. They also raised Kelly, and then Latavia and Latoya were part of that extended family. And then for them to trust me as a record company person, to sort of be in a room with the girls, to take them places, to teach them how to control an interview, you know, that sort of stuff. I had to always be on the up and up. I had to just sort of, they were young. They were me coming off that plane. They were 14 and 15-year-olds, and I'm a record company person. I mean, that could be kind of bad in 1979. You know, we were up to some no good things.
Yeah.
You know, so I give a lot of credit to the homes those ladies grew up in, and I give a lot of credit to hard work. I want to tell you that there is a video on YouTube. It probably has millions and millions and millions and millions of views, but it's Beyonce and Kelly. You don't see them. You don't see them throughout the video. You see them at the beginning, and then you see her dancing on a back porch, and she dances out of her shoes, and she just keeps on dancing, and it's just one of those. And that's the girl I met. Those are those girls I met. They were working that hard from morning till night, perfecting their craft. You can't just wish, you have to work. It takes a village. It takes a village. A publicist cannot do anything by ourselves if the promotion department is not doing their thing, if the visual department is not doing their thing.
Right.
I have tried, honestly, and I know Jana has too, to do press plans on our own. You can't work in a vacuum. You can't work. Publicists are not miracle workers. I love when people call my company. Okay, we are. Okay. I love when people call my company and they talk to my husband. He is we just made up titles for ourselves. So he's president and CEO. This is our company. We can do whatever we want, right? And you know, they say to him, "We need the Beyonce press plan." He's like, you know, that press plan took about 20 years.
Wow.
It takes a long time, and it takes a village. We just finished the tour. I can't do that tour by myself. Jana and I have to be lockstep, because you know what people do? Jana approved that. No, she didn't. Why not just call Jana right now? Like, I don't know Jana? Like, are you telling me something? Like, I don't know Jana. I'm not going to call Jana and say, girl, they're lying on you again.
Wow.
So it takes a team. I think the greatest thing an artist need to do is to have a team behind them. And when you're young and you're new and you don't have the money yet, fake it till you make it. You ever heard that? Okay. So everybody knows somebody in their family or in their tribe that has a legal mind that didn't go to law school yet, right?
Yeah.
So they know how to sort of read through some stuff. Let them pretend to be a lawyer. The cousin that's a really good writer, let them write a bio for you. You know, the one that talks and won't shut up like I do, let them pretend they're your publicist until you make it save your money. Because I'm not cheap.
Yes, tell him. Well, how do you find your tribe, especially when you're starting out? Where do you go? Where do you look?
You know, I'm just really about energy and the spirit, and I just really feel that like minds attract one another.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at weeding out things that don't belong in my life. So I think, I don't think of myself as a creative mind at all. So I think creative people are even more in tune to energy and spirituality. So I think, you know that little thing that's like, we say in the Caribbean, juking you? It means it's sort of like, you know, if something juking you, listen to it. Just listen to it. It means intuition is you're joking. Like just move. Like I'll tell you a record company kind of story. I was the editor of Black Beat magazine back in the day, and my son was quite young, maybe he was like 5 years old, and we went to this concert at City College, which is my alma mater, and the concert was promoted by no other than P. Diddy. He wasn't P. Diddy then, but he was a hustler, right? And so all his friends were these young rappers from Harlem and Mount Vernon and stuff, you know, Heavy D and the Boys and stuff like that. And I was covering it as a young editor at Black Beat magazine, and I took my son because it was kind of like right between Christmas and New Year's, so like all the black kids from Harlem opened up their gifts, and everybody from Brooklyn, everybody came with their brand new stuff, everybody looking good. It's cold as heck, but everybody's got their coat open so you can see what's underneath. And here we are, and it's like, the journalists can come in first, you know, let's get the journalists in place. I'm pulling my son, and he's pulling me the other way. And I'm like, where you going, baby? What's it? Mommy's working, pulling me the other way. And it's like, Michael, seriously? We should go home, Mommy. And he was not letting me go into that room at all. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the day I needed a babysitter. I left, did not. I was going down the hill, the ambulances were coming up. You can look it up, I don't remember what year. My son was born in 84. He was about 5 or 6, so somewhere there. It was that big tragedy. They closed the gym door, it was oversold, and everybody got trapped. Yeah,
Wow.
and there were multiple deaths. But my son, at like 5, 6 years old, was like, Mommy, you shouldn't go in there. You shouldn't go in there. He's 34 now. Yeah, I mean, every day I thank him. Every day.
What's your spiritual practice? Because you seem so centered and so self-aware.
Love, and more love.
Yeah?
I believe that God gave me a gift, and I think He gave me 2 hearts instead of 1. I truly believe because I was so loved, I had the love from a woman who was incapable sometimes of loving me, and my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunts, and everybody overcompensated for that. So I have an overflowing of that, and I operate from a place of love and a place of kindness and a place of respect. And that sensitive girl in me that's getting me all choked up right now, that's almost making me cry, she's always very, very present, and I'm always aware of how I'm treating people, because I never want to be that choked up. I never want to be in a place where I'm just sad, someone made me feel bad. You know, I have a pretty engaging Instagram, that my kids completely hate, because they're like, "Mommy, really? You're dancing in the closet again?"
Follow her on Instagram.
No, but this is not for any more followers. Trust me, I can't handle it because I do tend to answer everything. But it's from a place of complete happiness. Most of my posts, they come from my house. They come from my closet, they come from my bathroom, they come from my kitchen, because that's my happy place. When I was growing up and being raised by this tribe, I never had to go outside of my immediate family or friends. My cousins were my friends, so I just operate from a place of love. I mean, ask Lauren. I mean, I practically attacked her the first day I saw her. It's like, "You are my child. You are my child." Yeah, I just think it's so much easier to love. I was thinking today that God, whoever you believe God is, whether it's a female form, a male form, a ghost-looking thing, whatever it is you believe in, I feel like God was sharing out gifts. And I think they put brown people and black people in the front. And God said, "I'm going to give you joy. I'm going to give you joy. I'm going to bless young black and brown kids with joy, inner joy." I don't know if that same God knew all the suffering that was going to come. But when you think about it, right? Just think about it. People who come to Africa, not Johannesburg, not like the places where I do my charity work with Beyonce, like Burundi. The first thing they say is, "There's so much joy. I mean, how could they be so poor and have so much joy?" Isn't it incredible to have inner joy? It's the thing that people cannot take away from you. And it also, in that joy, is where you get your strength to cope, to dream a bigger dream. I tell my 3 children every day, and I still say that to them, 22, 25, and 34. It's not enough to dream big. You have to dream wide. You have to dream outside of your circle. You have to read a book where you see yourself, but you also have to read a book where you don't, so you can make that comparison. Why am I not in that book where they got big skyscrapers?
Yeah.
How come I'm not in the movie where people are just living, right? How come they don't do a story about us just being 2 women from different generations that we can actually sit here and talk? Why isn't that a story? So I think it's just about always going back to that innate joy that I think we were blessed with as people.
Yes.
Yeah. It's where our strength lies.
Yeah. Inner peace.